Princess Lyra walked through the long halls of the royal palace. Her blue skin shined under the crystal lights above. Her silver hair moved with each step she took. She was beautiful even by Zephyrian standards. But today her purple eyes showed worry and fear. The palace guards bowed as she passed. They knew something was wrong. The princess never looked this upset. Her usual proud walk was different today. She moved quickly, almost running to her father's throne room. Emperor Daxon sat on his golden throne. His face looked old and tired. The war with the humans had been hard on him. 3 battles lost. 3 defeats that should never have happened. The mighty Zephyrian Empire had never lost to such a young species before. "Father, you called for me?" Lyra said as she entered the room. The Emperor looked at his daughter. She was his pride and joy. Smart, strong, and brave. But today he had to ask her to do something that would break her heart. "Sit down, Lyra," he said in a soft voice. Lyra sat in the chair next to the throne. She could see the pain in her father's eyes. Something was very wrong. "The war is over," the Emperor said. "We have lost." Lyra could not believe what she heard. "Lost? How can we lose to humans? They are nothing compared to us. They live such short lives. They have no special powers. Their technology is so far behind ours." "That is what we all thought," her father said. "But they have something we do not understand. Something that makes them fight harder than anyone we have ever faced." The Emperor stood up and walked to the big window. He looked out at the city below. "They do not give up. Even when we destroy their ships, more come. Even when we kill their leaders, new ones take their place. They fight like they have nothing to lose." Lyra felt sick. If the war was over and they had lost, what would happen to their empire? What would happen to their people? "What do they want from us?" she asked. Her father turned around. His face showed the weight of his choice. "Peace, but it comes with a price." "What price?" "You must marry their leader." The words hit Lyra like a physical blow. She stood up quickly, her chair falling backward. "What? No. I will not marry one of those. Those animals!" "You will," the Emperor said firmly. "It is the only way to save our people." Lyra felt her anger rise. Her telepathic powers made the lights in the room flicker. "Father, you cannot ask this of me. I am a princess of the Zephyrian Empire. I have studied for years. I can read minds. I am stronger than 10 humans. My life will last for centuries. How can you ask me to throw all of that away on some primitive creature?" "Because if you do not, millions of our people will die," her father said. His voice was calm but firm. "The humans have proven they can defeat our fleets. They have weapons we do not understand. They have strategies that make no sense but somehow work." Lyra walked to the window and looked out at the city. Below, she could see her people going about their daily lives. They had no idea their princess was about to sacrifice herself for them. "Who is he?" she asked without turning around. "His name is Jake Morrison. He is their admiral. He is the one who led the attacks against our fleets." "A military man," Lyra said with disgust, "probably covered in scars and smells like a battlefield. The reports say he is young for a human leader. Only 35 years old," Lyra laughed, but there was no joy in it. 35? He is barely more than a child. Humans live such short lives. What could he possibly know about leadership or honor? The Emperor walked over to his daughter. He put his hand on her shoulder. "I know this is hard, but you are the only one who can do this. The humans specifically asked for you. They asked for me. Why? You are known throughout the galaxy as a symbol of our empire's strength and intelligence. They believe that marrying you will show both our peoples that this alliance is real and important." Lyra closed her eyes. She had always known that being a princess meant making sacrifices, but she never thought it would be this big. "When?" she asked. "In 1 week. The ceremony will take place on a neutral station between our territories. 1 week. 7 days to prepare for a life she never wanted with a man she had never met. A human man who was probably everything she hated about that species. "I need to see Captain Kor," she said. "He is already preparing for the journey. He will be your guard during the trip and the ceremony." Lyra nodded. Zane Kor was her oldest friend and most trusted protector. At least she would not face this alone. "Can I go now?" she asked. Her father nodded. "Pack light. We leave tomorrow morning." Lyra walked toward the door, then stopped. "Father, what if this human tries to hurt me? What if he treats me badly?" The Emperor's face became hard. "If he hurts you, we will destroy every human world in the galaxy. I have made that very clear to them." Lyra left the throne room and walked quickly to her chambers. Her mind was spinning with thoughts and fears. She had to marry a human, a creature she had been taught to see as lower than her own species. In her room, she called for Captain Kor. He arrived within minutes. "Princess," he said with a bow. "Zane, please. Not today. Today I need my friend, not my guard." Zane Kor was tall even for a Zephyrian. His green skin was marked with battle scars from years of protecting the royal family. His red eyes showed concern as he looked at Lyra. "I heard about the marriage," he said. "Then you know how I feel about it. I know you are scared, but I also know you are the strongest person I have ever met. You will get through this." Lyra sat on her bed. "What if I cannot do it, Zane? What if I look at this human and cannot hide my disgust? What if I ruin everything?" "You will not," Zane said. "You are a princess. You have been trained for difficult situations. You will do what needs to be done. But what kind of life will it be? Married to someone I do not love. Someone I do not even respect." "Maybe it will not be as bad as you think," Zane said carefully. Lyra looked at him with surprise. "Are you defending humans now?" "I am saying that maybe we do not know everything about them. If they can defeat our fleets, maybe they are not as simple as we thought." That night, Lyra could not sleep. She stood on her balcony and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there was the man she would have to marry, the human who had somehow beaten the greatest military force in the galaxy. She tried to imagine what he looked like. Probably short and weak like most humans. Maybe cruel and violent from all the battles he had fought. She had seen pictures of human soldiers. They looked so fragile compared to Zephyrians. But as she stood there in the darkness, one question kept coming back to her mind. How had such weak creatures defeated her people? What did the humans have that the Zephyrians did not? She would find out soon enough. Tomorrow she would begin the journey to meet her future husband. Tomorrow her old life would end and a new one would begin, a life she did not want with a man she already hated. But as she finally went to bed, Lyra made herself a promise. She would do her duty for her people, but she would never love this human. She would never let him think he was better than her. She was a Zephyrian princess, and she would never forget what that meant. The journey to Nexus Station took 3 days. Lyra spent most of the time in her room, trying to prepare herself for what was coming. She read every report about humans that she could find. Most of it made her feel worse. Humans were violent. They fought wars with each other all the time. They destroyed their own planet with pollution. They lived such short lives that they could not possibly gain real wisdom. The reports painted them as barely better than animals. Captain Kor tried to talk to her, but Lyra did not want to hear his words of comfort. She was angry and she wanted to stay angry. Anger was better than fear. On the morning of the 3rd day, they arrived at Nexus Station. It was a large metal structure that floated in space between human and Zephyrian territory. The station was neutral ground owned by no one and everyone at the same time. "Princess, we are here," Zane said from the doorway of her room. Lyra looked at herself in the mirror one last time. She wore a formal blue dress that showed her royal status. Her silver hair was arranged in the traditional Zephyrian style. She looked beautiful and powerful. She wanted the humans to see what they were getting. "How do I look?" she asked. "Like a princess who could rule the galaxy," Zane answered. They walked through the corridors of their ship toward the docking bay. Lyra's father was there with several other officials. They all looked as nervous as she felt. "Remember," the Emperor said to his daughter, "you represent all of our people today." "I will not forget," Lyra replied. They boarded a small shuttle that would take them to the station. As they flew across the empty space, Lyra could see the human ships in the distance. They looked different from Zephyrian vessels. Rougher somehow. Less elegant, but maybe more practical. Nexus Station was busy with diplomats from both species. The Zephyrians were easy to spot with their blue and green skin. The humans looked so pale and small in comparison. Lyra felt her confidence grow a little. At least she would tower over her future husband. They were led to a large meeting room. Lyra's father sat at one end of a long table. At the other end sat several humans in military uniforms. But she did not see the man she was supposed to marry. "Where is Admiral Morrison?" the Emperor asked. One of the humans, an older man with gray hair, stood up. "He will be here soon, Your Majesty. He wanted to review the final details of the alliance agreement." Lyra felt insulted. This human was making her wait? Did he think he was more important than a Zephyrian princess? A few minutes later, the door opened. A man walked in and Lyra felt her breath catch in her throat. This was not what she had expected at all. Jake Morrison was tall for a human, though still shorter than Lyra. His brown hair was neat and clean. His blue eyes were calm and intelligent. He wore a simple military uniform, but he carried himself with confidence. He did not look like a brutal warrior. He looked like a leader. "I apologize for being late," Jake said as he approached the table. His voice was deep and steady. "I wanted to make sure all the details were perfect for today." He walked directly to Lyra and stopped in front of her. She expected him to look nervous or afraid. Instead, he looked curious and respectful. "Princess Lyra," he said with a slight bow, "it is an honor to meet you." Lyra was surprised by his politeness. She had expected arrogance or crude behavior. Instead, this human was treating her with the respect due to royalty. "Admiral Morrison," she replied formally. Jake smiled, and Lyra noticed that his smile seemed genuine. "Please call me Jake. We are going to be married after all. I think we can use first names." Lyra felt her cheeks warm. She had not expected humor from him. "Very well, Jake." They sat down at the table to discuss the wedding arrangements. As the talks went on, Lyra found herself watching Jake more and more. He spoke with intelligence about the alliance. He asked thoughtful questions about Zephyrian customs. He seemed to actually care about making the ceremony meaningful for both cultures. During a break in the meetings, Jake approached Lyra. "Would you like to see something interesting?" "What do you mean?" Lyra asked. "I brought some things from Earth. Things that might help you understand humans better." Lyra was curious despite herself. "What kind of things?" Jake led her to a smaller room. On a table were several objects that Lyra did not recognize. There were books with strange writing, small devices that looked like they might be art, and something that smelled wonderful. "These are books," Jake said, picking up one of the objects. "We use them to record our stories and knowledge." "We have data crystals for that," Lyra said. "Yes, but books are different. You can hold them. Feel the pages. There is something special about the physical connection to the words." Jake opened the book and showed her pages covered with symbols. "This is poetry. We write it to express feelings and ideas in beautiful ways." Lyra looked at the strange markings. "What does it say?" Jake read aloud. "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate." The words were in an old human language, but Jake translated them. They were about love and beauty. Lyra was surprised by how gentle they sounded. "A human wrote this?" she asked. "Yes, a man named Shakespeare. He lived hundreds of years ago, but humans still read his words." Lyra was confused. "Why would you keep the words of someone who died so long ago?" "Because beautiful thoughts do not die with the person who thinks them. They can live forever if we take care of them." Jake showed her other things. Music that came from small devices. Pictures of Earth that showed mountains and oceans and forests. Art that humans had created just because they found it beautiful. "I do not understand," Lyra said. "Your species fights wars. You destroy your planet. You live such short lives, but you create these beautiful things. Why?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "Maybe because our lives are short, we want to make them matter. We want to leave something good behind." Lyra felt something she had not expected. She felt curious about this human. "Tell me about the war. How did you defeat our fleets?" Jake's face became serious. "Your ships were better than ours. Your weapons were more advanced. Your tactics were perfect. Then how did you win?" "Because we did not fight the way you expected us to fight. When you destroyed one of our ships, we learned from it. When you used a new weapon, we found a way around it. We adapted, changed. Humans are good at changing when we need to. Maybe because we have had to survive so many problems on our own planet." Lyra thought about this. Zephyrians were proud of their traditions. They did things the same way for centuries because those ways worked. But maybe that made them predictable. "Were you afraid?" she asked. Jake looked surprised by the question. "Yes, I was terrified. We all were. But fear can make you think harder and fight smarter." "I have never been afraid," Lyra said. "Then you have never been in real danger," Jake replied. "Fear is not weakness. It is information. It tells you when something matters." As they talked, Lyra tried to use her telepathic powers to read Jake's mind. She wanted to know if he was lying to her. But something strange happened. When she tried to look into his thoughts, she found them too complex to understand. It was like trying to read a book written in a language she did not know. Human minds were different from Zephyrian minds. They seemed to think in many directions at once. They held contradictory ideas at the same time. They felt emotions more strongly than her people did. Are you trying to read my mind? Jake asked suddenly. Lyra felt embarrassed. How did you know? Your eyes changed color. They got darker. Is that what happens when you use your telepathic abilities? Lyra nodded. She was surprised that he had noticed such a small detail. Did it work? Jake asked. No. Human minds are different, harder to read. Is that good or bad? Lyra thought about it. I do not know yet. They spent the rest of the day together, preparing for the wedding ceremony. Jake was patient when Lyra explained Zephyrian customs. He asked questions that showed he was really listening. He seemed to want to understand her culture, not just tolerate it. When evening came, they shared a meal together. Jake had arranged for food from both cultures. He served Lyra traditional Zephyrian dishes, but he also offered human food. Try this, he said, offering her something that looked strange. What is it? Chocolate. It is one of our favorite foods. Lyra tasted it carefully. It was sweet and rich and unlike anything she had ever eaten. This is good, Jake smiled. I hoped you would like it. As they ate, Jake told her stories about Earth. He talked about oceans full of life and forests that stretched for thousands of miles. He described cities where millions of humans lived together in peace. It sounds beautiful, Lyra said. It is, but it is also fragile. We have learned that we have to take care of it or we will lose it. Is that why you fight so hard? To protect your home? That is part of it. But we also fight for the idea that things can be better, that tomorrow can be different from today. Lyra had never thought about the future that way. Zephyrians believed that their empire would last forever, unchanging and perfect. But Jake seemed to believe that change could be good. That night after Jake had returned to his ship, Lyra talked with Captain Core. What do you think of him? She asked. Zane was quiet for a moment. He is not what I expected. What did you expect? A barbarian, a crude warrior who would try to dominate you. Instead, he seems to respect you. He is intelligent, Lyra admitted. More intelligent than the reports suggested. Are you still? The wedding was planned for 3 days later. This gave Lyra and Jake time to get to know each other better. The first day, they met for breakfast in a private dining room on the station. Lyra arrived first and sat at the table waiting. She had spent the night thinking about their conversation the day before. Jake had surprised her with his intelligence and kindness, but she still did not trust him completely. When Jake entered the room, he carried a small bag with him. Good morning, Lyra, he said with a smile. Good morning, she replied formally. Jake sat across from her and placed the bag on the table. I brought something for you. What is it? Jake opened the bag and pulled out a small plant in a pot. It had tiny white flowers and green leaves. This is jasmine. It grows on Earth. I thought you might like to have something beautiful in your room. Lyra looked at the plant with surprise. No one had ever given her flowers before. Zephyrians did not think much about such things. Why did you bring this? Because I noticed that your quarters are very plain. I thought some life might make them more pleasant. Lyra touched one of the small flowers gently. It was soft and smelled sweet. Thank you, I have never received a gift like this. Zephyrians do not give flowers. We give practical gifts, weapons, tools, technology, things that are useful. Jake looked thoughtful. Do you like useful things better than beautiful things? Lyra considered the question. I do not know. I have never thought about it before. They ate breakfast together while talking about their different cultures. Jake asked about Zephyrian art and music. Lyra was embarrassed to admit that her people did not create much art anymore. They were too focused on technology and military power. That seems sad, Jake said. Art is what makes life worth living, is it? Even when you are at war? Especially when you are at war, art reminds you what you are fighting for. After breakfast, Jake suggested they walk around the station together. As they walked, he continued to surprise Lyra with his questions and observations. Tell me about your telepathic abilities, he said. What is it like to read minds? It is natural for me. Like seeing or hearing, I can sense what people are thinking and feeling. Does it make you lonely? The question caught Lyra off guard. Lonely? Why would it make me lonely? Because you always know what people really think. You never get to be surprised by kindness or friendship. You always know if someone is lying to you. Lyra had never thought about it that way. I suppose it does make relationships difficult. I always know when people are afraid of me or trying to please me. Is that why you tried to read my mind yesterday? Yes, I wanted to know your real intentions. And you could not read me? No, human minds are too chaotic. You think about too many things at once. Jake laughed. That sounds about right. Humans are not very organized thinkers. Is that why you are so good at adapting? Because you think in many directions? Maybe. We do not like to do things the same way all the time. We get bored. They stopped at a viewing window that looked out into space. Both of their fleets were visible in the distance. Do you regret the war? Lyra asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. I regret that people died, but I do not regret defending my people. Even though you were fighting a superior force? Especially because we were fighting a superior force. That is when courage matters most. My people think humans are foolish for fighting battles you cannot win. Maybe we are foolish, but sometimes foolish people win because they try things that smart people would never consider. That afternoon, Jake showed Lyra more human culture. He had brought recordings of music from Earth. Some of it was soft and gentle. Some was loud and energetic. All of it was full of emotion. This is how humans express feelings, Jake explained as they listened. Music says things that words cannot say. Lyra closed her eyes and listened to a sad song about love and loss. She could feel the sadness in the music even though she did not understand all the words. Do all humans feel emotions this strongly? She asked. Most of us do. Is that different from Zephyrians? We control our emotions. Strong feelings are seen as a weakness. That seems like it would make life very gray. Gray? Boring, empty, without color. Lyra thought about her life on the homeworld. It was ordered and peaceful and predictable. But maybe Jake was right. Maybe it was also gray. What is your favorite color? Jake asked suddenly. Favorite color? The color that makes you happiest when you see it. Lyra was confused. Colors do not make me happy or sad. They are just colors. Jake looked at her with surprise. Really? You do not have an emotional response to colors? Should I? Jake stood up and walked to a control panel on the wall. He touched it and the lights in the room changed from white to a soft blue. How does this make you feel? He asked. Lyra looked around the room. The blue light was gentle and calming. It is pleasant. Jake changed the lights to red. The room felt warmer but also more intense. And this? Different. Stronger somehow. Jake smiled and changed the lights back to normal. Humans respond to colors emotionally. Blue makes us feel calm. Red makes us feel excited. Green makes us think of nature and growth. That seems inefficient. Maybe, but it also makes life more interesting. On the second day, they shared lunch together. Jake had arranged for the station's kitchen to prepare dishes from both cultures. But he also had something special. I asked the chefs to create something new, he said as servers brought plates to their table. A meal that combines human and Zephyrian ingredients. Lyra looked at the food with curiosity. It looked familiar but different at the same time. She tasted it carefully. The flavors were surprising but pleasant. This is good, she admitted. I thought maybe we could create new traditions together, things that belong to both of our cultures. The idea of creating something new together appealed to Lyra, though she was not sure why. Jake, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why did you agree to this marriage? Your people won the war. You could have demanded anything. Jake put down his fork and looked directly at her. Because I believe peace is better than victory. And because I hoped we might actually like each other. Do you? Like me, I mean? Yes, very much. You are intelligent and strong and beautiful. But more than that, you are curious. You ask good questions. Lyra felt her cheeks warm again. I do like you too. More than I expected to. Does that worry you? Yes, I was prepared to marry someone I hated. I knew how to handle that. But liking you makes everything more complicated. Why? Because now I want this to work. And that makes me vulnerable. Jake reached across the table and gently touched her hand. His skin was warm and soft. Vulnerability is not weakness, Lyra. It is the only way to build something real. That evening, Jake asked if Lyra would like to see his ship. She agreed, curious about how humans lived and worked. The human vessel was very different from Zephyrian ships. It was less elegant but more practical. Every space seemed to serve multiple purposes. The crew members they met were friendly and informal, very different from the rigid hierarchy on Zephyrian ships. This is my ready room, Jake said. showing her his private office. The room was filled with books and personal items. There were pictures of Earth and what looked like family members. Everything felt lived in and comfortable. You keep physical books on a starship? Lyra asked. I like books. They do not break if the power goes out. Lyra picked up one of the books and opened it. The pages were filled with notes in Jake's handwriting. You write in your books? I argue with them. I ask questions. I make connections to other ideas. That seems disrespectful to the author. I think most authors would be happy to know their readers were thinking deeply about their words. On Jake's desk was a small device that Lyra did not recognize. What is this? A chess set. It is a game we play. Jake showed her how the pieces moved and explained the rules. Chess was about strategy and planning, but it was also about sacrifice and creativity. Would you like to try? He asked. They played a game together. Lyra was good at seeing patterns and planning ahead, but Jake surprised her with moves that seemed illogical but somehow worked. How did you know to do that? She asked after he captured one of her important pieces. Sometimes the best move is the one your opponent would never expect. Is that how you won the war? By being unpredictable? Partly, but mostly by refusing to accept that we had already lost. After the chess game, they walked through the ship's gardens. Lyra was amazed to discover that the humans grew plants and flowers on their military vessels. Why do you have gardens on a warship? She asked. Because people need beauty even in war, maybe especially in war. The gardens were small but carefully tended. There were vegetables for food but also flowers that served no purpose except to be beautiful. My people would call this wasteful, Lyra said. What do you call it? Lyra looked at a rose blooming in one of the garden beds. Its red petals were perfect and its smell was wonderful. I think I would call it hopeful. Hopeful? You plant flowers that you might not live to see bloom. That means you believe in tomorrow, Jake smiled. That might be the most human thing anyone has ever said to me. On the third day, their last day before the wedding, Jake asked Lyra to meet him for dinner. When she arrived at the dining room, she found it had been transformed. The lights were dimmed and there were candles on the table. Soft music was playing. What is this? She asked. The morning of the wedding arrived with both excitement and nervousness filling the air on Nexus Station. Lyra woke early and spent time preparing herself. Her handmaidens had traveled from the home planet to help her dress in traditional Zephyrian wedding clothes. The dress was made of silver fabric that shined like starlight. It was decorated with blue gems that matched her skin. Her silver hair was arranged in an elaborate style that showed her royal status. She looked beautiful and regal. But as she looked at herself in the mirror, Lyra realized she felt different inside. The angry, frightened princess who had arrived at the station was gone. In her place was a woman who was genuinely excited about her wedding day. Captain Kor knocked on her door. Princess, it is time. Come in, Zane, she called. Kor entered and stopped when he saw her. You look magnificent. Thank you. But more importantly, how do I look to you? As my friend, not my guard. Zane studied her face carefully. You look happy. Truly happy. I have not seen you look like this in years. I am happy. Jake is a good man. Yes, he is. Better than any of us expected. Lyra walked to the window and looked out at the human ships. Do you think this will work? The marriage and the alliance? I think you and Admiral Morrison have a real chance at happiness together. And if you are happy, the alliance will be strong. The wedding ceremony was planned to include traditions from both cultures. It would take place in the station's main hall, with representatives from both species attending. When Lyra arrived at the hall, she was amazed by what she saw. The room had been decorated with flowers from both Earth and the Zephyrian homeworld. Human and Zephyrian flags hung side by side. Music from both cultures played softly in the background. Jake was already waiting at the front of the room. He wore a formal human military uniform, but he had added a blue sash in the Zephyrian style. When he saw Lyra, his face lit up with a genuine smile that made her heart skip. The ceremony began with words spoken in both languages. Emperor Daxon performed the Zephyrian rituals, while a human chaplain led the Earth traditions. Both spoke about the importance of unity and understanding between different peoples. When it came time for vows, Jake spoke first. He had learned some words in the Zephyrian language, though his pronunciation was not perfect. Lyra, he said in both languages, I promise to respect your culture and learn from your wisdom. I promise to protect you and support you. I promise to work with you to build a future that honors both of our peoples. Lyra felt tears in her eyes as she spoke her own vows. Jake, I promise to trust you and learn from you. I promise to be your partner in all things. I promise to help build peace between our worlds. When they exchanged rings, Jake surprised Lyra by giving her one made from both human gold and Zephyrian crystal. It was beautiful and symbolic of their two cultures joining together. With this ring, I thee wed, Jake said using the ancient human words. By crystal and star, I bind myself to you, Lyra replied in the traditional Zephyrian way. The moment they were declared married, something unexpected happened. Instead of the polite applause that everyone expected, the room erupted in genuine celebration. Humans and Zephyrians who had been enemies just days before were cheering together. At the reception that followed, Lyra watched Jake move through the crowd. He spoke with dignity to the Zephyrian officials, asking thoughtful questions about their culture and government. With the human delegation, he was warm but respectful, making sure they understood the importance of treating their new allies well. But what impressed Lyra most was how Jake treated the regular workers and crew members from both species. He remembered their names and asked about their families. He made everyone feel important and valued. Your husband is a natural diplomat, said Admiral Ben Carter, Jake's second in command. He is not what I expected, Lyra admitted. What did you expect? A warrior. Someone hard and cruel, Ben laughed. Jake is a warrior when he needs to be, but his real strength is making people want to work together. As the evening went on, Lyra found herself enjoying the celebration more than she had thought possible. She danced with Jake to both human and Zephyrian music. She talked with people from both cultures and began to see how they might learn from each other. But the real test came when General Vex Prime, Lyra's uncle, approached her during a quiet moment. Niece, he said in a cold voice, I need to speak with you privately. Lyra followed her uncle to a small side room. She knew he had opposed the marriage from the beginning. This is all wrong, Vex Prime said as soon as they were alone. You are a Zephyrian princess. You should not be married to some primitive human. Jake is not primitive, uncle. He is intelligent and honorable. He has fooled you with his charm, but humans cannot be trusted. They are planning to betray us. What are you talking about? Vex Prime pulled out a datapad and showed her some intercepted communications. Look at these messages between human ships. They are planning something. Lyra read the messages. They seemed to show human forces preparing for some kind of operation. But something about them felt wrong. Where did you get these? She asked. That does not matter. What matters is that your new husband is planning treachery. Lyra felt her heart sink. Had she been wrong about Jake? Had his kindness and respect all been an act? What do you want me to do? She asked. Confront him. Demand the truth. When he lies to you, you will see what he really is. Lyra returned to the reception with her mind spinning. She watched Jake talking and laughing with the guests.
Was it all false?
Was he really planning to betray her people? When Jake approached her, she tried to act normal, but he noticed something was wrong immediately. Lyra, what is it? You look upset. I need to speak with you privately. They went to Jake's quarters on the station. As soon as they were alone, Lyra showed him the datapad. My uncle gave me this. He says it proves you are planning to attack us. Jake looked at the messages carefully. His face became serious, but not in the way Lyra expected. These messages are fake, he said. How do you know? Because I know my own people and our communication codes. Someone has created these to make it look like we are planning an attack. Jake went to his own communication console and started calling up real messages from the human fleet. He showed Lyra the differences between the real codes and the fake ones. Someone wants to destroy the Alliance, he said. They want to make you distrust me. Lyra felt relief wash over her. But then she realized what this meant. My uncle, he must be working with others who oppose the peace. We need to be very careful, Jake said. If we accuse him without proof, it could start the war again. They worked together through the night, using Jake's knowledge of human communications and Lyra's telepathic abilities to uncover the truth. They discovered that General Vex Prime was working with a group of Zephyrian military leaders who wanted to continue the war. The conspirators had planned to create a fake incident that would make it look like the humans had betrayed the Alliance. They hoped this would force Emperor Daxon to restart the war. What should we do? Lyra asked. We stop them, Jake said simply. Together. The next morning, during what was supposed to be the final peace ceremony, the conspirators made their move. They staged an attack on one of the Zephyrian ships and tried to make it look like humans were responsible. But Jake and Lyra were ready. Jake immediately ordered his ships to stand down and open their communications to prove they were not attacking. Lyra used her telepathic abilities to scan the minds of the Zephyrian crew members and identify who was really behind the attack. Working together, they exposed General Vex Prime and his allies. The real attackers were arrested and the fake attack was stopped before anyone was seriously hurt. Emperor Daxon was furious with his brother-in-law. "You could have started a war that would have killed millions of our people." "I was trying to protect our honor," Vex Prime replied stubbornly. "Honor?" Lyra stepped forward. "There is no honor in lies and deception. Jake showed me more honor in 3 days than you have shown in a lifetime." The crisis brought Jake and Lyra even closer together. They had faced their first real test as a married couple, and had passed it by trusting each other and working as a team. That evening, as they prepared to leave Nexus Station for their new life together, Jake and Lyra stood once again at the observation deck looking out at the stars. "I was right to trust you," Lyra said, "and I was right to hope we could become real partners." "Is that what we are now? Real partners?" Jake took her hand. "I think we are becoming something even better than that." "What?" "Friends. Real friends who happen to be married," Lyra smiled. "I like the sound of that." As they prepared to board Jake's ship for the journey to Earth, Lyra realized that her old life was truly over. She was no longer just a Zephyrian princess. She was also a human admiral's wife. She was a bridge between two worlds, and for the first time in her life she was exactly where she wanted to be. The wedding that had started as a political necessity had become something real and meaningful. The alliance between their peoples was strong, because the alliance between Jake and Lyra was built on trust, respect, and genuine affection. As their ship left Nexus Station behind, Lyra looked forward to whatever adventures lay ahead. She was no longer afraid of the future. She was excited to discover it with Jake by her side. 6 months had passed since the wedding on Nexus Station. Lyra and Jake now lived together on the joint command ship Unity, which served as the headquarters for the new Zephyrian Human Alliance. Their marriage had grown stronger with each passing day. The ship itself was a symbol of what they had built together. It combined the best Zephyrian technology with human innovation. The result was a vessel that was more advanced than anything either species had created alone. Lyra stood in their shared quarters, looking out at the stars. She wore a uniform that combined elements from both military traditions. On her shoulder was the symbol of the Alliance, a blue star surrounded by silver lines representing the union of their peoples. "Good morning," Jake said as he entered the room. He carried 2 cups of coffee, a human drink that Lyra had learned to enjoy. "Good morning," she replied, accepting the cup gratefully. "Any word from the morning briefing?" Jake's expression became serious. "Yes, and it is not good news." They walked together to the command center. The bridge of the Unity was staffed by both humans and Zephyrians working side by side. Lieutenant Sarah Williams, a human communications officer, worked next to Commander Kel Zinn, a Zephyrian tactical expert. The cooperation between the two species had become natural and efficient. "Show them the reports," Jake said to Ben Carter, who had become his chief of staff. Ben activated the main display screen. Images appeared showing destroyed space stations and burning planets. 3 systems have been attacked in the past week, Ben explained. The attackers call themselves the Vorak Dominion. They seem to be a militaristic species that believes in conquest and domination. Lyra studied the images. The destruction was complete and brutal. "Have they made any demands? Sent any messages?" "Just one," Ben replied. He played an audio recording. A harsh mechanical voice filled the bridge. "We are the Vorak. We take what we want. We destroy what resists us. The weak species of this galaxy will submit or be eliminated. Your alliance of humans and Zephyrians means nothing to us. You will fall like all the others." The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Jake spoke. "Well, they seem friendly," he said with dark humor that made several crew members smile despite the serious situation. "What do we know about their capabilities?" Lyra asked. Commander Zinn brought up tactical data. "Their ships are heavily armed and well shielded. They seem to prefer direct assault tactics. No subtlety or cleverness. How many ships do they have?" Jake asked, unknown. "But intelligence suggests a very large fleet. much larger than our combined forces. Lyra felt a familiar fear, but this time it was different. 6 months ago, she would have been afraid for herself and her own people. Now she was afraid for both humans and Zephyrians. The Alliance had become her family. "We need to contact both governments," she said. "This threat requires our full combined response." Over the next few days, Jake and Lyra worked together to coordinate the Alliance's response to the Vorak threat. They held meetings with leaders from both species, planned military strategies, and worked to keep morale high among their forces. Lyra discovered that her unique position as both a Zephyrian princess and a human admiral's wife gave her special influence. She could speak to her own people about the value of human courage and adaptability. She could show humans that Zephyrian wisdom and technology were gifts to be treasured, not feared. "You have become quite the diplomat," Jake observed one evening as they reviewed the day's meetings. "I learned from the best," Lyra replied with a smile. "Who? Your father?" "No, you," Jake looked surprised. "Me? You showed me that real leadership is not about commanding from above. It is about bringing people together and helping them be their best selves." The first battle with the Vorak came sooner than expected. A Vorak fleet attacked a border system without warning. Jake and Lyra led the Alliance response personally, commanding from the Bridge of the Unity. The battle was unlike anything either species had faced before. The Vorak ships were massive and powerful. They attacked with overwhelming force, caring nothing for their own losses. "Their strategy is simple," Jake observed as he watched the battle unfold on the main screen. "Throw everything at us and hope we break." "It is working," Commander Zinn reported grimly. "We are outnumbered 3-1. Lyra watched the tactical display and saw something that others had missed. "Jake, look at their formation. They are so focused on overwhelming force that they have created a weakness." Jake studied the display and saw what she meant. "Their center is thin. If we could punch through, we could split their fleet in half," Lyra finished. "But it would be dangerous. We would have to get very close to their largest ships." Jake smiled grimly. "Then it is a good thing humans are crazy enough to try impossible things." They executed the plan together. Human ships used their speed and maneuverability to create openings, while Zephyrian vessels used their superior shields and weapons to exploit those openings. The Unity led the charge directly through the center of the Vorak formation. The battle was fierce and costly. Several Alliance ships were destroyed and many more were damaged. But the strategy worked. The Vorak fleet was split and confused. Unable to coordinate their overwhelming numbers, they were forced to retreat. But the victory came at a price. Jake was injured when an explosion on the bridge threw him against a bulkhead. Lyra was at his side immediately, her medical training helping her assess his condition. "How bad is it?" Jake asked, trying to sit up. "You have a concussion and several broken ribs," Lyra said, gently keeping him still. "You need medical treatment. The battle is over. We won. Now let me take care of you." As Jake recovered in the medical bay, Lyra took command of the Unity. She coordinated the rescue operations and began planning their next moves against the Vorak. Dr. Lisa Chen, the ship's chief medical officer, found Lyra working late in the command center. "He is going to be fine," she said. "But he needs rest, I know. But there is so much work to do." "The work will wait. Your husband needs you." Lyra realized that Dr. Chen was right. She had become so focused on her duties that she had forgotten what was most important. She found Jake in their quarters, trying to work despite his injuries. "You should be resting," she said. "I cannot rest while the Vorak are still out there." Lyra sat beside him on the bed. "Jake, we cannot defeat them by destroying ourselves with exhaustion." Jake put down his datapad and looked at her. "I keep thinking about all the people who died today. Good people from both our species. I should have found a better way." "You did find a way that saved thousands of lives. You cannot blame yourself for the cost of victory. How do you handle it?" "The weight of command." Lyra took his hand. "By remembering that I do not carry it alone. We are partners, remember? In all things." Over the following weeks, more battles were fought. Each time, the Alliance forces performed better. Humans learned to use Zephyrian technology more effectively. Zephyrians learned to adapt and improvise like humans. The two species truly became one military force. But the real breakthrough came when Lyra made a discovery during one of her telepathic scans of captured Vorak soldiers. "Jake, I found something important," she said excitedly, bursting into their quarters late one night. "What is it?" "The Vorak are not just conquerors. They are refugees. Jake sat up in bed, immediately alert despite the late hour. What do you mean? Their homeworld was destroyed by something even worse than they are. They are fleeing across the galaxy, taking what they need to survive. They attack others because they are afraid. That does not excuse what they have done, and no, but it explains it, and it gives us a way to end this war without destroying them completely. Lyra had learned from the captured Vorak that their species was actually trying to find a new home. They attacked other civilizations because they believed it was the only way to secure resources for their survival. What if we offered them an alternative? Lyra suggested. Uninhabited worlds where they could settle peacefully. You want to negotiate with them? I want to try. The Alliance has survey data on hundreds of worlds that could support life but have no intelligent inhabitants. We could offer them several of these worlds in exchange for peace. Jake was skeptical at first. The Vorak had shown no interest in negotiation. But Lyra convinced him that it was worth trying. The final confrontation came when the main Vorak fleet arrived at the edge of Alliance space. It was a massive armada that dwarfed anything the humans or Zephyrians had ever assembled. They have over 1,000 ships. Commander Zinn reported with awe, and we have 200, Ben Carter added grimly. Jake and Lyra stood together on the bridge of the Unity, looking at the overwhelming enemy force. Any regrets about marrying me? Jake asked with a weak smile. Only that we did not have more time together, Lyra replied. Instead of attacking immediately, they sent a message to the Vorak fleet. It was a simple offer, peace in exchange for settlement rights on uninhabited worlds. The response was swift and predictable. The Vorak leader, a massive creature called the War Master, appeared on their screen. We take what we want, the War Master growled. We do not beg for gifts from weaker species. You are not weak, Lyra replied calmly. You are strong enough to survive the destruction of your homeworld. You are strong enough to cross the galaxy seeking a new future. That kind of strength deserves respect, not fear. The War Master seemed